It was a freezing winter night. The streets were empty, covered in a thick layer of snow. Streetlights flickered, and the wind howled through the dark alleys. Somewhere in that cold, unforgiving world, a tiny white cat sat shivering. His fur was wet, his ribs were visible, and his eyes, once bright and full of life, now reflected nothing but hunger and desperation. He was starving. He had been for days. And then, he did something no one expected. He barked. Yes, you heard that right. A cat, hungry, freezing, and barely clinging to life, barked like a dog, hoping that someone, anyone, would hear him. What happened next? No one was ready for it. The cat, whom people later named Snow, wasn't always alone. Once, he had a loving owner, a kind old man named Henry. Henry had found Snow as a kitten and raised him with love and care. Every morning, Snow would follow Henry to the small bakery where he worked. Every evening, they would share a warm meal together. But one day, everything changed. Henry didn't come home. Snow waited by the door, his tail swishing anxiously. Hours turned into days, but his beloved owner never returned. The scent of fresh bread no longer lingered in the air. The warmth of Henry's arms was gone. Snow didn't know that Henry had fallen ill and had been taken away to the hospital, never to return. And so, Snow waited. Days turned into weeks. With no one to feed him, he grew weaker. He searched for food in trash bins, but the harsh winter had left little behind. Other stray animals chased him away, growling and snarling. People ignored him, too busy with their own lives to notice a small, starving cat. Snow was desperate. He had seen dogs bark when they needed help. He had heard them cry out, and sometimes, people would stop and take notice. And so, with the last ounce of energy in his frail body, he opened his mouth and let out a sound that shocked even himself. Woof! Woof! It wasn't a perfect bark, but it was close enough. It echoed in the empty street. He tried again. Woof! A woman walking by stopped in her tracks. She frowned, looking around for a dog, but all she saw was a tiny white cat sitting in the snow. Snow looked up at her with pleading eyes. Then, he did it again. Woof! Woof! Her eyes widened in shock. Oh my God, did that cat just bark? She whispered. She wasn't the only one who heard. A group of people nearby turned to look. One of them, a young girl named Emma, rushed forward. She knelt beside Snow and gasped, "He's so thin, he must be starving." Emma cried. She took off her scarf and wrapped it around Snow's fragile body. He shivered, pressing against her warmth. He was barking for help, the woman said in disbelief. A cat, barking. That's unbelievable. A man in the crowd pulled out his phone. I need to record this, no one will believe me. The man recorded Snow as he let out another weak, desperate woof. The video went viral overnight. Millions of people watched as a starving white cat, too weak to meow, barked for help. People from all over the world were heartbroken. How could such a loyal, intelligent cat be left to suffer? Offers to adopt Snow flooded in. News stations picked up the story. Animal shelters received donations in his name. Everyone wanted to know, would Snow survive? Emma couldn't let him suffer another second. She rushed Snow to the vet, where they discovered he was dangerously malnourished. If he had spent one more night in the cold, he wouldn't have made it. For weeks, Emma cared for Snow, feeding him warm meals, wrapping him in soft blankets, and sitting beside him as he regained his strength, but despite everything, Snow kept looking at the door. He still missed Henry. That's when Emma had an idea. She started searching, and finally, she found out about Henry. He had survived his illness, but he was now living in a senior care home. Would Henry remember Snow? Would Snow recognize his old owner? There was only one way to find out. The day they brought Snow to Henry was a day no one would forget. The moment Henry saw the tiny white cat in Emma's arms, his eyes filled with tears. "Snow," he whispered, his voice shaking. Snow froze. His ears twitched. His eyes locked onto Henry's face. And then he leapt into Henry's arms, purring louder than ever. Henry hugged him tightly, sobbing. "I thought I lost you forever, boy." Snow nuzzled against Henry's cheek, and for the first time in months, he meowed. A soft, happy meow. The viral video had saved his life. But in the end, it was love that brought him home. Snow's story became a symbol of hope. A reminder that sometimes, even when the world turns its back on you, miracles can happen, and all it took was a single, desperate bark.